Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well, I guess today it's less abundant hypocrisy of the left and just the general lack of humanity on the left. I wake up this morning tuning into the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination, and you'd think in an ideal world this would be a moment of reckoning, a moment of kumbaya, the left and right finally coming together, but of course we aren't there yet, because if that's ever to happen, the left would have to finally stare into the mirror. They would have to finally admit to the monster that they have created. But no, of course we aren't there, no, not even close. Instead of accountability, instead of identifying the elephant in the room while their base celebrates violence all over social media, what do we get? We get something much more sinister. The talking points have already been handed out to the propaganda machine, to all these left-wing propagandists, to start justifying, to start with the false equivalencies, to start condemning President Trump for admitting the obvious that we have a left-wing domestic extremist problem. The talking points have already been disseminated, and what they're saying is frankly disgusting and dishonest. Let's take a look at this and let's debunk all the nonsense, shall we? Not to mention, let's really put a hyper focus on the truth. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so take a look at these two posts side by side. We've got Harry Sisson and the main wonk. You'll notice something a little bit suspicious here. Not exactly surprising considering we know these DNC influencers are all on the payroll. They're all part of these agencies and getting big donor bucks to shill the same talking points. But take a look. They both start with, we have no suspect, no motive, no weapon. And then immediately pivot to demonizing President Trump or anybody who dares connect this to Democrat rhetoric, the radical left, or the Democrat Party. Are you freaking kidding me? These people are so transparently on the payroll, it's insulting. And I'm sitting here thinking, what a slap in the face. Charlie Kirk is dead. And the response is boilerplate, copy-paste disinformation meant to protect the Democrats from blame. And sure, some of these people have posted vague little condemnations. They're blanket, we oppose all political violence tweets. They're empty condolences. But it's all vapid PR and nothing more. None of them will ever actually admit the truth. That their rhetoric created this. Their endless demonization of the right has radicalized people. This talk that Trump is Hitler, Republicans are Nazis, the right is an existential threat to our humanity and democracy. We're falling into fascism and people must rise up. That's what built this moment. And a little bit of acknowledgement would be appreciated and go a long way. But it will never come, obviously, because these people are sick. No, instead what we get is a tidal wave of both sidesism. Actually, political violence happens on both sides, and right on cue in comes Bakari Sellers, hitting us with one of the most disgusting and dishonest tweets I've ever seen. And I'm sure you guys have seen this guy on CNN. He pretends to be a big-brained intellectual, but he's highly unimpressive. Well, he just took to social media to stand up for his party and to attack all the right-wingers who are telling the truth. And look what he says. He goes off listing every fake or distorted example that the Democrats continue to repeat. He starts off with the Gretchen Whitmer kidnap plot, then mentions January 6th, then talks about the pipe bombs, Nancy and Paul Pelosi, and then the murder of Melissa Hortman, her husband, and the shooting of a state senator and his wife. And a lot of people who don't have the ability to critically think are seeing this and then buying the narrative hook, line, and sinker, just falling for the leftist misinformation. But let's really quickly walk through it. Let's isolate the truth in all of these cases. The Gretchen Whitmer plot was actually an FBI entrapment plot. Every single person in that case got let off, and the entire case got dismissed. January 6th? Sure, it was a protest that got a little bit out of control, but the only person that was murdered was Ashley Babbitt in cold blood. Not to mention, it was mostly peaceful and people were simply walking through the Capitol. It looked more like a field trip than the most violent day in American history, like Democrats pretended it was. Then we've got the pipe bombs. He claims that the pipe bomb was left at the DNC, but he conveniently admitted the fact that actually pipe bombs were left at the DNC and RNC, and not to mention, we don't know who did it, why they did it, and the bombs weren't even actually bombs, they were duds. They weren't even meant to explode. Then we've got the Paul Pelosi incident. He was attacked by a mentally ill nudist from San Francisco who had left-wing views and had some sort of schizophrenic paranoia about the elites. Definitely not a MAGA foot soldier. Then the Minnesota case, which is still murky. Sure, the guy was a registered Republican, but he also worked with Democrats. He knew Tim Walz personally and had worked with him. He knew the people that he killed. He was part of the Minnesota political scene. We don't know the motive. And not to mention, the victims in that case had actually just sided with Republicans on legislation. So if this was a right-wing attack, why would he target them? It could have been personal. We don't know what happened. But what we do know is that the left jumps at every opportunity to use these cases to shield their own violence. And what's so disgusting is as these leftists are distracting, as Bakari Sellers is lecturing us that Donald Trump is somehow a bad guy for telling the truth, what's happening behind the scenes? The entire radical left base online is cheering Charlie Kirk's assassination. They're laughing. They're hashtagging, quote, Trump next. They're openly celebrating political murder, just like they did with Luigi Mangione, just like they did when Steve Scalise was shot.
So what is it that you want to do?
Let me tell you, that mother, the one that was shot, the Scafey guy. I mean, that guy, what's his name, Scalise?
I really don't want you to deflect right now.
No, this mother, like, his whole job is, like, to get people, convince Republicans to kick people off health care.
We know all of this.
I hate this mother. I'm glad he got shot.
We've laid in
I'm glad he got shot.
So
dude, I'm not going to say that in public.
You don't have
well, then what are you saying it to us for?
Say something. Say something.
What are you telling us for?
I wish you were dead.
Why are you telling us, but not telling anyone else?
Because I'm trying to figure out
it's okay.
Just like they did when a Patriot Prayer member was executed on the streets of Portland, just like they did when Rand Paul was brutally assaulted. It's constant left-wing violence. You know, let's mention the attempted Trump assassinations from the 2024 election, or the attempted murder of Brett Kavanaugh. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, and that doesn't even include the general violence, the harassment, the assaults on university campuses, the assaults targeting people for simply wearing MAGA hats.
This is racist.
How can I be racist?
Let's be frickin' real for a second. Every conservative knows it. High-profile voices on the right can't even walk around without serious security. Because if they didn't have it, if they didn't plan for it, we'd probably see many more dead bodies. That's how bad it's gotten. Yet Democrats are still pretending this isn't their problem. It's happening on both sides. No, it's not. They're still lecturing us that actually it's Donald Trump's words, apparently, that are inciting violence. Complete insanity. They will never reckon with it. They'll never take ownership. Instead, they will continue to demonize the right, smear Trump, call us fascists, white supremacists, misogynists, racists, threats to democracy. And what happens when you tell millions of people that their neighbors are literal Nazis, evil incarnates, existential threats to humanity? Well, eventually, some sicko will believe you. Eventually, some radical will pull the trigger. And that's where we are, and instead of taking accountability, we're watching the Democrats spin, contort themselves, twist themselves into a pretzel to distract, and frankly, I view it as a doubling down. Absolutely disgusting. The leftist response from top to bottom, from the sickos on TikTok celebrating the murder to the people who are pretending to have a heart. It's just absolutely despicable. Anyways, that's what I got. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.